You're not going to be happy with me today. Today I'm going to be reviewing The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, The Hunger Games, .5. You know, when those authors go back and write a prequel to an extremely popular series to expand on the world that everyone fell in love with. Not for money, but for the love of storytelling. That's why this came after the best-selling series. So for those of you who have never read The Hunger Games or watched the movies, this is going to be the place to start. If you're going to get into the series, start with the prequel because it just makes sense, but don't think the prequel is the entire series because thankfully the rest of the series is not like The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I mean, that title even, it doesn't even, that title is so obscure compared to the rest of the series titles that it doesn't even fit in. We've got The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, The Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and Mockingjay. 3 really short titles and one that sounds like you're trying to say an entire paragraph on a book cover. That aside, this book just did not work for me. So we've got the main character, which is Snow. I'm going to read you the description really quickly just so you have an idea of what the book's about, and then I can go and dissect it and tell you why it didn't work. It's the morning of the reaping that will kick off the 10th annual Hunger Games. In the capital, 18-year-old Cornelius Snow is preparing for his one shot at glory as a mentor in the games. The once mighty house of Snow has fallen on hard times, its fate hanging on the slender chance that Cornelius will be able to overcome, outwit, and outmaneuver his fellow students to mentor the winning tribute. So far, so good. The odds are against him. He's been given the humiliating assignment of mentoring the female tribute from District 12, the lowest of the low. Their fates are now completely intertwined. Every choice Cornelius makes could lead to favor or failure, triumph or ruin. Inside the arena, it will be a fight to the death. Outside the arena, Cornelius starts to feel for his doomed tribute and must weigh his need to follow the rules against his desire to survive, no matter what it takes. So it doesn't sound that bad. And in fact, I was pretty excited when this was announced because I thought, if it's anything like the rest of the series, it's going to be a good book. Then I read it. It starts off extremely slow, which is okay if it builds up to a really good story and a really good climax, but it doesn't. It just simply doesn't. Unfortunately, the character of Cornelius is not likable. Not even in the sense that he's a villain likable, because we get to know President Snow in the Hunger Games, and in those books, this is supposed to be the humanizing side of him, the side where we find out what happened in his childhood to make him the way he is. And yet I'm still left with a ton of questions that were just unanswered. I don't know why Suzanne Collins decided to focus solely on telling another YA romance versus giving us a really good backstory for a character that plays a huge part in the rest of the series. It's sad, but he's way more interesting as an adult, where he's a very one-dimensional type character in the Hunger Games than he is as a child and a teenager in The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. In this book, he comes off as being extremely easily influenced, but then somehow we're led to believe that this same person becomes the leader of a nation. So much just does not work with this story. The character from District 12 is really likable at first, and then towards the end, it just falls apart. She's likable in the sense that she's not likable to everyone else in the capital, because everyone in the capital is still selfish, snobby, self-centered. But we have someone from District 12 who's actually really different than Katniss, in the sense that she has public talents that she displays. She's a performer. She sings, she dances, she acts, she does all sorts of things, which is really cool. That character has a lot of dimensionality, whereas when we first met Katniss, she didn't. And she developed over time to have a lot of personality and a lot of character traits that made her a really likable character. It's almost like the opposite happens in this prequel. We start off and we get a really good list of character qualities, traits that the characters have, and then over time, the author does everything possible with this story to take those character traits and those qualities and take them away as if they really weren't there to begin with, and replace them with just bland character tropes that you can get in any young adult novel. I'm sorry, but this is supposed to be the best of the best. This is one of the best-selling series of all time, and we're expected to believe that this is part of that series. I'm sorry, it just doesn't fit. But I know what you're thinking. That's okay. We just want some answers. We want to know a lot about how the Hunger Games came about. Well, sorry, too bad, you're not getting them. Unfortunately, the Hunger Games as they're presented in this book are so far from the Hunger Games that are presented in the main series, what I consider to be the main series, the original first 3 books, that I don't know how you could possibly conceive that they went from what is presented in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes to what is presented in the rest of the books. Even the elements that are really prevalent in the Hunger Games, such as people being able to send things to their tribute, like cups of soup or things like that to help them out throughout the game, that's present, but it's so watered down and made to seem like something that the Capitol just hates the idea of. In fact, everything that ends up being in the Hunger Games, the Capitol, for some reason in this book, just can't stand the idea of. So we're supposed to believe that all of the sudden, over the course of a couple of years between this book and the Hunger Games, that the things that were completely appalling to have in this game are not only accepted in the future games, but are celebrated and are loved by the viewers. And there are some good points that are made. Suzanne Collins does try to answer a couple of questions. She tries to answer how they get the districts to actually watch the Hunger Games, because they don't watch them. In this book, you start off in the Capitol, they're watching them because they take place in the Capitol, but the rest of the districts are like, nope, we're gonna work, we're gonna continue to feed our families, we're not gonna watch you kill us. That I liked, and I also liked how there was a really big focus on the mutations and the scientific part of this, where it probably would have been easy to glaze over those details because they're more complex. But those details are actually really well presented in this book, and I like that. Where it does not work for me is the characters. Characters can make or break a book. You can have a great setting, you can have a great plot, but if the characters are terrible and unlikable and they don't show any growth whatsoever throughout the book, and in fact they regress rather than move forward, that's when it becomes a book that, for me, becomes extremely forgettable and does not stand the test of time like the others in the series do. So unfortunately for me, this book was not what I wanted it to be, and it was not to the same quality as the others, in my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments if you've read this book, what your thoughts about it were. I know for most people, they really enjoyed this book, and I didn't hate it. I read it, and I'd rate it as good, but I would not rate it as excellent or on the same level as the other Hunger Games books. It's a book that I'm not sure we needed. The world could definitely do without this book, and everybody would still be okay. That's the best way I can put it. If you'd still like to pick yourself up a copy, I'm going to put a link down in the description to where you can get yourself a brand new copy of this book so that you can read it for yourself and decide for yourself if you like it. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you love book reviews and all that cool stuff, and I'll see you guys later.